everyone, welcome back to Tashi's World of Books and welcome to another author series recommendation video. Hey you guys, welcome back. So it has been 2 weeks since I have done a video. I was away on vacation, we were at the beach, and we just got back last night. I'm super exhausted. The time difference kind of messed with me and I was up really late last night, but we had a great time at the beach. My son, for those of you guys who know, my son is 7 years old, and so going to the beach and we met friends there was an amazing opportunity for him to like just hang out and not have to worry about the virus and that kind of stuff, and just being outdoors and in the sun. And we did horseback riding and snorkeling and swimming with the dolphins, and it was just an amazing time with great friends, and we just tried to do so much and we packed so much in. But I missed you guys so much. I missed filming, I missed making videos. Of course, I tried to get some reading in, and I will, over the course of this week, fill you in on everything that I read. And it was really interesting because for those of you guys who know, I read like a book a day, right? And so on vacation, I think because we were in the sun all day and we were out and on excursions and hiking and doing all kinds of things. So even in the evening at night, when I typically get my reading done in the morning and at night, I was way too exhausted. So like one little book that took me like 3 days to read, 4 days to read, which is totally fine. Anyway, so I got a lot to say, so let's get in. So I am doing a Pepper Winters. I'm continuing on with the Pepper Winters deep dive. I'm slowly making my way through all of her books. And at the end, when I finish everything that she has published, then I will do a video telling you how to read all of her books, because she gives you Easter eggs. So you really should read her books in the order that she wrote them, because she gives you like little indications of who the next characters are going to be in the books. Not always, but it's kind of interesting that you can find that. So without further ado, let's talk about the Debt Inheritance series. Okay, and so this series is so good. And you first are introduced to the Debt Inheritance guys in the Monsters in the Dark series, okay? So you hear a little bit about the motorcycle club that they're involved in, which are I think they're called the Black Diamonds. It's been 2 weeks since I've read this. So they're the Black Diamonds, and you're introduced to them in Monsters in the Dark. Okay, so the Debt Inheritance series, you learn about the debt inheritance in book 1. Okay, and it's called Indebted number 1. And here you find out that there are two families, the Weavers and the Hawks. This all takes place in the UK. These are each aristocratic families, right, that are from a long lineage that are connected to royalty because of their names. Now, over time, things have changed, which you learn about in the books. So the Weavers are a long lineage of seamstress and tailors and, very renowned, think of like Johnny Versace type people, where they create, the creations that they make are like haute couture, basically. Okay, and then the Hawks have worked with them, and they were a family that came up the rungs. They worked for the Weavers for many generations, and they were a working class family, but because they worked so closely with them, then their sort of history and the vantage point in society were really entwined together. And so as you learn about these two families in each of the books, you start to understand what the debt inheritance is. But in this first book, it is a captor-captive situation. Neila Weaver is a seamstress, and she's doing her first debut. She's very sheltered by her family. She has a twin brother whom she's very close with, a father that she is very close to, who is basically started the Weaver business, the Weaver name, and she basically has taken over, and she's doing her first couture collection, and she has a show. And at this particular show, her father comes up to her and says, you know, I have somebody that I want you to meet. I think he'd like to take you out tonight. I think it's a really good opportunity for you. And she's like, whoa, what? Wait, what? Like, you've sheltered me my whole life. You and my brother have made it almost impossible for me to date anyone. I have no history of dating. I'm a virgin. I have no, and actually I'm not a virgin because I had one fumbling interaction where I was able to escape away from your tight clutches. And I don't understand this. But she's in this couture dress and she meets this guy and she goes, I want you to meet Jethro Hawk. And the Hawks are a very well established family and everybody knows them because they're like richer than God. They almost are like at the Queen of England's level of like wealth and nobility and prestige. And he says, I want you to meet him. And so she meets him and she says, you know, she's really resistant. She doesn't want to go. Her brother doesn't want to let her go. And the father is very resigned. Like, you have to go. We don't have any choice. You need to go. She doesn't say we don't have choice. He's like, but I really encourage you to do this. I think it's going to be a really good thing. And, you know, Jethro, I recommend, he's going to be great for you. And so to make a long story short, he kidnaps her. But what you learn is that the Weaver father has no choice because very early on the debt has to be paid, and the debt is paid by the firstborn Hawk inherits the first female born Weaver. So the firstborn male Hawk inherits the firstborn female Weaver, and she is his to do whatever he wants with because she has to pay the debt. And the debt goes through, you know, the fourth and final debt, and each stage has to be played out in a specific order, in a specific way, in a specific sequence with very specific history lesson associated with it. And she has to willingly agree to it. So he takes her captive, and very, very quickly you're just like, what is going on? And there's like a mystery component because she's texting with this random guy who texted her by accident, and so she really has a connection with him. And so she wants to, you know, she was planning on gonna meet this guy on a date, but they weren't able to. And she's been texting with this guy for months on end. So she's got this texting guy, and then you've got Jethro Hawk that's involved. Okay, so you learn about the history of the book, or the history of the debt. And so in this book, this is intense because once he kidnaps her and whisks her away to his palatial, like, historical mansion, then everything really ensues from there. And you meet the matriarch, you meet the patriarch, his father, his brother, you meet the MCs, like the Black Diamond Brothers, and you find out, like, she has to start to pay the debt, and the things and the throes that they put her through are intense. When I say intense, I mean like intense to the next level intense. It's just absolutely crazy, the things that they make her do. And she has to, because if she doesn't, then her family will pay and she will lose with her life. And so really she makes a choice because she loves her twins so much. She loves her father so much that she makes a choice to do this. And that first introduction welcome lunch with 20 MC members, his two brothers, one of which is a decent brother, one of which is twisted and like crazy, and they need to try to keep him away from her because he's dangerous. And then Jethro, who is the oldest. There is also a sister who you find out about later. But that first introduction lunch, you are cringing at the things that are going down in this. It is just amazing. And you want her to fight, and she's feisty and strong, and she's very strong-willed, but she really is put in an untenable situation. And so this is absolutely an enemy's situation. This is a captor-captive. This is dark. This is twisted. It is like, you know, I always say, what a tangled web we weave. This is a tangled, twisted web of deceit and lies and deception and what's really going on. And it is so good. And so as you move then into book 2, and this is the first debt, because here you're just introduced. We're just finding out what's going on, and we're finding out what the debt is. And in order for her to find out what the debt is and to get pieces of the parchment that where the debt has been, every member of the Weaver family, female firstborn of a generation, has agreed to this and has signed this. And in order for her to get pieces to find out what's going on, they put her through throes. So she's got to go through some shit to get to it. And it is intense. Intense, okay? Intense. But it's also twisted because it's very polite. and very kind. Can I say kind when you're doing some twisted things to people? I don't know. But when you read it, you're going to understand what I mean. So that's what's going on here. So then when you get to the actual first debt, and he says, you say I'll never own you. If I win, you willingly give me that, right? You sign not only the debt agreement, but another one that makes me your master until your last breath is taken. You do that, and I'll give you this. So the first debt has to be paid. She has to go through the throes, but there clearly is something going on between Jethro and Neila. And you're just like, what is this? What is going on? Because how can there be something there between these two when he has to do these twisted things? And then we start to understand that Naila's mother, whom is dead or who's run away or something has happened, she had to go through this. And she's learning about her family history and everything about the Weaver history, and you start to understand why the debt is in place, and you start to understand what the Weavers did to the Hawks and what the Hawks have done to the Weavers, and you like, these people are all twisted, and Jethro and Neila are just pawns in this insipid game of deceit and lies and dynasties and finances and wealth and titles and nobility. It is so fascinating and so interesting to hear all of this and to see how it plays out. It's absolutely wonderful. I loved it on so many levels. So then we go into the third book, which is the second debt. And she then really understands that she has to try to play the game. And so she figures out, like, I need to outwit him. I need to pull him because there's this clear connection between me and Jethro. So I've got to use this in some way to get out of this, because if I make it to the fourth and final debt, they're going to take my head. They're going to kill me, and I need to survive this. And I'm barely surviving, but it's also like there's something going on with Jethro. He has some kind of condition. You don't know what that is. You're slowly getting pieces of the puzzle. You're seeing that he's tormented as much as she's tormented, and each book that you read and each debt that's paid and each step that they take slowly strips away at their soul, and the imbalance of power is shifting and changing and evolving, and it is so, so, so good. Like, Pepper Winters just weaves a wonderful, wonderful tale in this that's filled with, like I said, intrigue and mystery and interest. If you haven't read this, I'm telling you, it is so, so good. So what I did then is I went ahead and got the bind up of this, and the bind up, and you can get, and I should have done this when I bought the first version, as I should have bought the bind up of the Debt Inheritance first and second, because that comes in a bind up as well. And then I think if you get the bind up, there is a prologue that comes before the Debt Inheritance, and it tells you a little bit more about the backstory of how the Debt Inheritance came. While you get it here from each family member, and you start to understand the connection between the Hawks and the Weavers and why it came to be and how it has been sustained for generations upon generations upon generations, and that this is fully legal and this is allowed, and there's nothing that she can do to get out of this, even despite everything that's happening between Jethro and Neila. And so this is the third debt, the fourth debt, and then the final debt. And this, I read this on the airplane going out. I read part of it on the airplane. And I have to tell you that that plane ride, it was a 5.5 hour plane ride. I was like, we're there already? Like, I read the entire time. It is fascinating. It is riveting. It is enthralling. It is beautiful, heart-wrenching, gut-wrenching. You hate certain characters, you love other characters, you're there for every step of I thought that Monsters in the Dark was good, and I thought that, like, that Q and Tessa were amazing. Jethro and Neila take it to a whole nother level. I'm like, each characters that she brings in, that she writes about in her series, whether it's Monsters in the Dark, sets a bar here. Then she goes Indebted, sets the bar to the next level. Then we're going to go into the Dollar series, which I already read, but I'm going to reread again, because in the Dollar series you have both Q and Tessa, and then you have Jethro and Neila that appear there as well. And so I just want to get those Easter eggs. But I'm telling you, the bar is set at the next level. Again, these are not for the faint of heart. You got to check out the trigger warnings because these are dark romances. They're twisted. So you have dubious consent, non-consent, rape, captor, captive, you know, just torture. Like everything is in here. Everything is in here. And you just feel like when you read this stuff, you go, how do you come back from that? How do you come back from that? And it happens in spades. In spades. It's so, so good. Now, the one thing I am going to tell you is that I purchased the Debt Inheritance Epilogue. If you get the bind up, the epilogue is already included in this story, so you don't need to purchase this separately. Likewise, I believe that if you purchase the bind up of the first 3 books, then the prologue that's like this, that you can't get anywhere else, is included in that bind up. Okay, so go ahead and do that. Now, the bonus epilogue you absolutely have to read. It's the conclusion. It's what happens a year later, no, 3 months later, a year later, 5 years later, and it is fabulous, and it is so worth it, and it wraps the story up in such a beautiful way. And I have to say that this series, the Debt Inheritance series, is Pepper's best writing for me. It absolutely is a 5 out of 5 star. It is, like I said, riveting, beautiful, wonderful, wraps it up like lovely. Everything you feel satisfied. You feel like everything that should have happened happened. Everything that you wanted to see happen happened. Everything that you didn't want to see happen didn't happen. Like, it just was beautiful in so many ways. And then the connections between other characters and people that you were rooting for, like it all comes together really, really nicely. So then in this book, like I said, in here in the bind up, mainly towards the latter part, maybe in the 4th and the final debt, you are introduced to another MC, the Pure Corruption. And Pure Corruption is run by a president named Kill, or Arthur Killian. And he's introduced because he's working with Jethro for some things in here and helps out tremendously. And that then sets up for the Pure Corruption MC. There are 2 books in the series. This is Run and Ruin, and then Sin and Suffer. Let me say this. I liked this series. This is a 4 out of 5, but it's not her best work. If I had to rank her books so far, this is my least favorite, but it's still really good nonetheless. And so let me tell you about this. So this story is about Arthur Killian, and he's born into an MC, raised in an MC life, and he falls in love with his chapter president's daughter, but it's a forbidden love because there's an age gap. And when he falls in love with her, she's a child, and he's a child too, but she's much younger than him. So it's like not acceptable. His father is a ruthless SOB and has done some stuff that causes drama within the MC. To make a long story short, they are on a mission at present day, and they are trafficking 5 women. And when his guys come back, they have 6 women. And when he takes the blindfold off of one of the women, he recognizes her instantly. But he doesn't know how he recognizes her instantly because the woman that he loves died 8 years before. So there's no way, he saw the death certificate, he visits her grave, there's no way that this woman he's seeing on this trafficking incident is this woman that he's loved. But instantly he's attracted to her and he recognizes her. So he tries to find out, he says, this one's mine, I'm taking her, you only needed 5, that was what the contract called for, take the other girls, do what you need to do, this one's mine, I'm taking her home. He takes her home, and lo and behold, she has amnesia, and she doesn't remember anything about her past, but he thinks that she's full of shit. He wants to know what's going on, who's trying to set him up, and to make a long story short, he is cruel, evil, and mean to her, and terrible as her memories are starting to come back to her. So there's definitely a romantic suspense component to this, and as the memories come back, the story unfolds, and you start to understand what is going on, and you start to understand the deep-seated corruption that is going on behind the scenes with the MC, why he was put into rule, who's fighting against him, and everything that's going on. in this book, and it's a 4 out of 5 star. It's definitely an interesting read. I'm not going to say it's riveting, but I am going to say like you're fascinated and you want to hear more. And so then this is the conclusion. This is Sin and Suffer. And so once we figure out what's happened in the past, then we're, you know, figuring out how to move forward in the future. I don't want to say what happens with this chick, whether she is or is not that person. You have to read it to see, but it is a fascinating story. It's very, very interesting. And like I said, you were set up to hear, and Jethro is mentioned in here as well. And so I love that she gives you those like little Easter eggs. So that series overall is a solid 4 out of 5 star. It's worth the read. It's fun. It's fascinating. But when you come off the Dead Inheritance series, like, I mean, like, that's like, you know, like another stratosphere. So that's like, you know, amazing, amazing, 10 out of 10. Like, it's just so, so good. So then when you read this, you're like, it's palate cleanser, right? But it's not the same. So having said that, I am going to continue with my Pepper Winters deep dive. I'm going to go back and reread her Dollar series, and I think I'll review that for you. And then once I finish that, I've got 3 more series of hers to read, which I'm really excited about doing, and I will share all my thoughts with you about that when I have them and when I'm ready to upload those. But you guys, I'm back on a regular basis now, so thank you guys for being so patient with me. So you know that I upload new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So please like and subscribe and come hang out with me and let me know what you guys are getting into. And I so appreciate you guys' support, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. I've been all over the place today, you guys. I'm so excited to talk to you, and I'm so excited to gush about all the books. So, oh, and the other video that I'm going to do is what I read on vacation, because I have a couple more books that I was able to actually get through, and I want to share those with you as well. So that is all that I have for today.